There you
Hi.
are. Hi, Sari. So, can you tell me where we're painting today? This is like a landscape that you sent me. Looks like
Yeah,
mountain and
this
a
is,
river and a shadow.
yeah, my husband and my kids and I just got back from Big Bend National Park. And so this is
Oh,
right
great.
at the opening of the Santa Elena Canyon. And yeah, I thought it was beautiful. So I have a ton of reference photos I'm really excited to dig into this week.
Nice. Yeah, I'm working kind of small, like a 6x6 square.
Mm-hmm.
And what size are you at?
Yeah. I
Looks
think
like it's
I'm either 9 by 12 or let's see, 11
no. I
by,
think that's 9x12.
yeah, it's
Judging
yeah,
by your
or
hand, unless you have absolutely giant hands.
no, they're pretty average.
Okay.
Yeah, I love this kind of mid-size. I was gonna go a little smaller, but I wanted to have enough space to play in the details. So
Okay. Yes, this is the scale that I'm used to painting at every day for little studies. So on these videos, this is kind of um, a real workable size for the amount of time. I
right,
have done a little bit larger, um, but when you're talking and you're mixing color and you're trying to think and do everything all at the same time,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that just before I hopped on. Is I think I maybe overestimated how tough it might be to talk and paint because I'm used to doing this solo.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Well, bigger brush, right? And it all kind of evens out.
Yeah. Um, so you do shoot videos, right?
Yeah,
And
I do.
you record yourself painting?
I do. I do some lives every once in a while, and then I do a lot of like TikToks, which is kind of just like a video app. And I do some stuff for Instagram videos. They're always trying to launch new like video options, and so to stay on the algorithm's good side, I usually at least give it a college try to figure out the new video platforms. But yeah, I like it. It's fun.
Hmm. Yes, I uploaded a few videos to TikTok back when they first started.
Oh
And then
yeah.
I realized what TikTok was for.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't foresee myself being able to keep up. Um, and I'm
Right.
also not that cool. So,
Yeah, it's a weird app. I have the Instagram algorithm pretty well figured out. I mean, enough. But TikTok, because they're so new and they're sort of always changing how they're monetizing themselves, is a little bit trickier to pick up on. But I'll figure it out one day, I think. Hopefully, anyways. That's what I tell myself.
yeah. So, thank you so much for taking time out. I know that you have little ones there, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have a 5-year-old and a 7-month-old as of today. Today's her 7-month, I guess,
Oh, oh
birthday.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, little baby. But yeah, thank you for having me on. I love this format of like painting and chatting. I feel like so I'm surprised I don't see more people doing it because when I thought about it, it's just such a cool idea to like hear two artists talk shop and sort of see the composition come together. It's cool.
Yeah, I've asked a lot of people to do it, and I've been turned down most of the time.
Wow, really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I was so excited to get to do this. This is so fun.
yeah. Well, I'm not sure whether it's just scheduling, which I thought everyone had plenty of free time at the beginning of the
Yeah,
pandemic,
right.
or whether it's just like being a little intimidated of being on video and having to work.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that could be tough for sure. But I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. If it ends up, not great, it's tough to do two things at once. So I'm not expecting a masterpiece, but I don't know. If it's bad, you just paint over it. It's not, not that
That's
precious.
right. And if you're like me and you've painted some very poor pieces on these, it's best to tell everyone and to really make sure everyone
Exactly.
gets it.
Totally.
I did one really terrible one during the summer. I
Oh,
didn't have
no.
enough paint, and
Mm.
I was in my car trying to get a signal, and I was painting with this guy Steve in New Orleans,
Mhm.
and he took a look at my piece a few times, and I know he was like, "What is he doing?" Because I had
Oh,
all
no.
wrong colors, and I was just making a
Right.
mess. It was like 120 in the car, and that is
Oh,
probably
no.
it's probably one of my favorite episodes, just because I crashed and burned so bad.
Yeah, I mean, once you've done it a few times, you know, it doesn't physically hurt. It's just sort of emotionally a little tough. And then you know, there's less to be scared of when you're painting if you've crashed and burned a few times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
always.
actually I don't know if you know this about me. People who have watched other ones of these know, because I never shut up about it. But I learned how to and started painting in New Orleans amongst all the crowds of
Oh,
tourists
wow.
that go in. So I was very used to throngs of people just being around me while I worked.
Yeah,
And
that'll get the nerves out real fast.
yeah, it kind of had to, because I couldn't keep up producing the number of pieces
Mm,
that I had to, and still kind of be able to get there and sell every day. It was a
right.
really weird balance. So I just ended up having to work there and
Yeah.
yeah, work out in public.
Yeah, I mean that's a way to get over the jitters really fast. That's so intimidating. Were you doing landscapes while you were doing that, or?
No, I started out as a still life and portrait only painter.
Wow.
Um, I just did like celebrity portraits, and I
Mhm.
painted a lot of oysters and beer bottles and hot sauce bottles, and all the usual stuff that
Right.
people
Yeah.
visiting a place like that would enjoy.
Mm.
And yeah, so I just did thousands of small still life, and now it takes a lot for me to actually do a still life,
Mm.
and not get tired of it after like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so wild that you started with still life and portrait because you're just, you know, you're just so well known for your landscapes and your, you know, sky scenes, and it's so funny how you end up getting kind of to your creative sweet spot. Sometimes you just spend years doing the all kinds of different stuff. It's cool.
What did you start doing?
Yeah, I let's see. So I went to school, a liberal arts university, and I majored in fine arts and graphic design. And for the first 3 years of painting, we had to do still lifes, and they were dictated by the professor. So they were really, really boring. And so I
Mm-hmm.
never wanted to do still life because of that. So I started with still life, but it was not by my own um, desire. And then as soon as we were able to paint whatever we wanted, I grabbed all my stuff in my studio and I went out to a parking garage and just painted the city, just from the top of the parking garage. And I loved it. So I did landscapes for several years. And then I moved to a place, and I had at the time, a toddler, and I didn't have a lot of access to good landscapes. I moved to the suburbs, and it was so uninspiring. It was one of those like newly built. We were just renting, but newly built. You know, all the houses look the same kind of neighborhoods, and
Yes.
it was, yeah, very kind of a bit of a crisis for a minute. And then I started unloading groceries as a mom does. And the sunlight sort of caught things in the right light. And I'd always really liked Wayne Thiebaud and kind of these colors like that. And I started taking pictures on my back patio of the produce and arranging them in a really purposeful way. And I remember thinking, well, gosh, even if all I do is arrange these and sort of get these nice photos, like this is really exciting for me. And yeah, I did that, and I ended up, you know, painting them. And that's kind of what I feel like I might be the most known for. But I
Mm-hmm.
really like painting everything. I always joke that I'm in real life, I'm super, super boring. And so the only way I sort of can like explore and play and be and exciting is through my painting. So now I paint a little bit of everything.
Same here too. Yes. Yeah. There's the assumption, I guess, through some people that my wife finds very interesting that I'm like this really dynamic personality with a lot of opinions, and I'm just like real gregarious, and it could not be further from the truth.
Isn't that funny how that comes across though with your art? I mean, I think I would have thought that. I know I hadn't really thought about it, but I think something about being an artist, I don't know, makes you seem like that.
Yeah, maybe. I just answered an inquiry on Instagram the other day about my influences, and I said Wayne Thivo as one of the two.
Oh wow!
Yes, I when I grew up, I really liked a lot of graphic novelists, illustrators, like Gerald Brom.
Right.
And then after I got out of art school for sculpture in the early or in the late 90s, early 2000s, a friend of mine had a big Wayne Thivo book, and I took a look at it, and I really liked it. And I just kind of absentmindedly said Wayne Thivo anytime someone asked me my influences when I was painting out on the street. And in a bizarre way, it sort of came to pass that
right.
I really did look to him for inspiration and composition and all sorts of other things.
Yeah, he's kind of I feel like because he's so established and well known, sometimes you can you know how something can be hiding in plain sight. I feel like he's definitely one of those artists who, I don't know, their name sort of is bigger than they are, but like I love going back. I have a bunch of art books of his and looking at his landscapes and his early work. And I feel like he's one of those artists that no matter when you go back to his work, you can always find something new to like really geek out about. It's definitely a really prolific artist too.
I see that you have another, that you have your phone there and that you're kind of zooming in and zooming out.
Yeah.
When you paint, do you normally use like an iPad or a phone for reference, and then you kind of zoom in and zoom out?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Okay. So I was trained to paint, from sight in college and, as long as I could. But yeah, with a kid and stuff, I've had to learn to paint from a photograph. But I think because I had that training of knowing that, just how different painting from life is, I'm always I'm trying to paint as though I'm not painting from a photograph. And not to say that like it's bad to paint from a photograph, but sometimes I'll have like notes and, so like when I went to Big Bend, I'm painting from this photo, but I also have videos from there and some notes in a book about like the quality of like the mountains. Like they're not picking up how pink they look in real life. And so anyways, yes, I do work from photo. But it's, I think I always like to put the asterisk that I'm desperately trying to have it read as though it's not just worked from a photo. It's a long-winded answer for that.
No, just the opposite with me. I could give less than a shit. I cannot stand landscape painting outside, doing the plein air thing. I can only barely tolerate painting from my motorhome or from my car. I do it because I feel as though I should be doing it, but really, I much rather look at 4, sometimes 5 different sources for reference for any particular thing.
Right.
And it sort of gives me the reason to keep going and painting as often as I do. It kind of helps maintain the interest.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like there's a lot of like snobbery around painting from a photograph and how and I think it comes from a place of wisdom and knowing that, because I teach courses, and when I teach them in person, even if students will have the still life in front of them, they'll still want to take the photo so that they can have the cropping is already made for them. And just by the nature of working from pixels instead of working from life, your information is sorted a bit for you. But I also think that having this sort of purist plein air mindset kind of leaves people out. So I appreciate your take on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready to give opinions about plein air and plein air painters all day long.
Yeah.
Because I've had my fair share of people commenting or asking me why I don't just paint outside.
Right.
Why I'm not upholding the tradition.
Right. I think people just like to see artists suffer. They're like, you know what? If you get to do this for a living, go stand in nature. Go get cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't
it's
know.
It's fun,
but I get bit to shit when it's the summertime and there are mosquitoes or biting flies around. It is
or
unmerciful.
It can be cold.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's fun every once in a while, but if it was my everyday thing, I don't know if I would. Yeah, it's just to each their own, and I totally respect people who they love the craft so much they're willing to experience that, but I don't know, that's a lot of work.
Indeed.
So I'm curious, you say you're living out of your RV. Are you traveling full time right now, or do you just do this seasonally, or?
Yes. My wife and I left New England in 2008 and got on the road when the housing crash hit. And
right.
We had a 3-year-old at the time who is now 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've been on the road for a while. We lived in the French Quarter for the birth of my second daughter back in 2012. But we sort of just keep moving, and it's fun. And my kids enjoy homeschooling. They enjoy seeing their friends in different places. I think we're probably going to get a house sooner than later, now that we've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love that. I love that you're doing that with the kids and sort of traveling as part of their education. I think that's so neat.
Yes. Not always easy, but
yeah.
I think it's an experience that they'll never live down.
Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah, what a cool answer when people in the future are going to be like, where'd you grow up? They'll get to be like, well.
Yeah, well, I was born here, and
yeah.
I grew up in America.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I love that.
So I like that you're working all the different areas all at once.
Yeah. Yeah, I just hop around. It's sort of, I don't know. I think we were told to do that in college, and I sort of just kept with it.
I do too. And I wasn't really told to as a sculptor or doing life drawing. They were always okay with you just sort of getting, the feeling of the entire piece, and then kind of, because it was real fine art space, kind of going into sort of finer forms really quick in one area.
Right.
Yeah, my piece is getting a little muddy.
Oh no! Here, let me see. Oh Yeah, there's some good stuff still in there, though. You've got that nice red and crimson kind of at the mountains. That's really nice that you kept that.
Yeah,
it's always salvageable.
I think it is. I just haven't introduced too much of my CAD yellow deep. I wanted to sort of see if I could use kind of the gray and the washed out brown.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes it works.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And even if it like doesn't end up okay, it's still a learning tool. I always, that's the toughest thing to teach new artists, is to not be precious with it. I feel like the minute as an artist you can be, every painting is just a learning process, the quicker you're gonna get to the satisfying part of being an artist. New artists especially will like really hem-haw over things, and I'd rather people just risk it and go wild. And even if they make mud, it's, it's just part of the process and you'll learn from it.
Yes. I have unsuccessfully tried to convince people over the years that that they only have the ability to see about a quarter of what I've actually done, because the other 3/4 has been so terrible. And
right.
They seem to think there's no way that that it's possible, and I assure them that it is. That it's just like you just have so many real garbage starts to things.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, I remember one time, I think when I first started following you, so gosh, years ago, you you were scraping your, do you work in oil? Is that oil?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. You were scraping your canvases, and you in the comments, or I think in the caption, said, if anyone gets mad that I'm scraping these, I'm going to block you. And obviously it was very like tongue in cheek, but I love that, because people get so precious about it, and you have to realize, like, just like any other profession or skill, like you just have to practice sometimes. Like they can't all be, amazing. And, just to not worry about it and sort of embrace the fact that you're going to have some weird paintings, and it's totally fine and normal, and it's part of it.
I was joking there, and a few people direct messaged me and told me how I'm wasting my time.
Oh my gosh.
And they were giving me some real tough love. And I blocked them. I just didn't block anybody else.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's such a weird way to think about it. I mean, it's not wasted at all. I mean, it's going into, so in that case, into that like way of thinking, like learning or being a student is wasting time. I don't know. It's still a successful day in the studio, even if you don't come out with anything, I think. But I guess that's just how different people think.
Yeah. I'd have to say that I'm satisfied with maybe 2 pieces a week that I deem as pretty good. Right. And as long as I get one every month that I take a look at and I say to myself, I'm kind of impressed, self. And I think that I've had a good time.
Totally. Yeah. I think, maybe it's foolish, but like if I go a week or so with making nothing that's super impressive to myself, like I just get more excited because I know that a good painting's just waiting around the corner. Eventually I'll come in my studio and sit down, and, a painting will just sort of emerge easily. And so if I make bad paintings, I'm always like, well, maybe I'll come in tomorrow and make something amazing. You never know. So yes. I don't know.
That reminds me of this guy who's taught me how to do a sales pitch. When I first got on the road, I was selling cookware at Sam's Club. There was this product called Titanware pans, and I had to go and do this training to sell these pans, and I had to do that thing where you wear the little microphone in the store.
Oh man, yeah, like at Costco.
It was pretty bizarre, but he really stressed to me and this other person when we started that you have to get all the no's. Yet just get all the no's out of the way. And
right.
Back then, I didn't really see the value in it, but every now and again,
yeah,
I think, darn, sometimes you do just have to get some no's out of the way.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think, if you, especially when you are flexible enough to sort of roll with the punches when you get a bad painting and say, okay, well, maybe I needed to, like, for instance, I have a lot of paintings where I blow out the values. That's something that happens to me a lot. I just sort of remind myself, I say, next time I go into a painting, I'll just remember, keep your saturation low for longer. And so, you learn from your mistakes. I know that's like an obvious thing to say, but even with like paintings just on the daily basis, there's always something you can learn no matter how long you've painted.
Well, another thing that you may or may not know is that some of those paintings where your values are blown out, those are the ones on Instagram that people sometimes like the most.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Because
the ones that
really
are
easy to see. And even if they're looking at things in like bright sunlight on the beach, or they're looking at something that's at a reduced light, like. And we're back. Sorry.
Awesome. Yeah. Commercial break.
Yep. What were we talking about? Was
that
just kind of blabbing, or?
No, I forget. I think we were talking about not taking your practice so precious and things like that. Yes. Learning from the mistakes, all the good stuff. Oh, wait, we were talking about saturation. Yeah. You made a good point. You said that the more saturated compositions do better on Instagram, and you're 100% right on that.
Yes. I know. I'm not really great with color, but I can definitely see from the pieces that I've seen in person from other artists I know to what they post online. If they're using a traditional kind of red, green, blue palette that's kind of a little bit more tonal and muted, it just doesn't pick up as well as it would in person.
Oh, totally. Yeah, there's a lot of things that Instagram, I think, leaves out. I obviously like and appreciate Instagram. It's how I make my income. But I'm also the first one to say that, you're missing texture and scale and, a lot of those nuances in the color palette when you, when things are shown through a tiny little screen, right?
Yeah. I mean, I also make my living on Instagram, so that's why I paint small. And that's why I post small.
Yeah.
And that's why I really don't post large work on Instagram, because it doesn't read as well. If I post something that's this size right here, like a 6x6,
right,
when people zoom in on it with their fingers, they can see everything. And when you zoom in on like a 3-foot by 3-foot piece, it just doesn't work out that way.
Oh yeah, totally. And I've learned that the hard way. I remember when because in college I painted really, really large. Like I built my own canvases and 4 feet by 8 feet kind of things. And then I started painting on Instagram, and I painted small just because of my time restraints. But when I finally got some space and some money to paint larger, I did. And I would paint, I spent so much time on a painting, and it was huge and beautiful in person. And then I'd post it, and it would do just as well as a 4x4 inch, like little study I did in 20 minutes. Yep. It was so devastating.
Well, it's just, I'm glad that we were able to figure that out.
Yeah.
sooner than
Totally.
later, because I think sometimes, um, people don't want to change what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
to suit the online market.
Right.
And I mean, I have my own opinions about that, but I think
Yeah.
that I think that if you're not willing to change one or two things just so that your work is a little bit more appealing, yeah, then maybe you should just stick to galleries.
Right. Or at least, for me, I always think like if I'm prolific enough, I can make sort of two bodies of work. I have stuff that's geared for Instagram. It's still stuff I like and enjoy, but the colors play better on Instagram, the scale plays better. And I have that body of work. And then I have work that I know won't sell on Instagram, but I just make it for me. And sometimes it sells, usually it doesn't. But I'm prolific enough that like it doesn't matter, and I don't get bitter about things not doing well on Instagram. I just have.
Wait. You have time to make me work with two young children?
Yes, yeah, I paint quick, and my husband, he worked as a sports journalist, but during
Okay.
COVID there was nothing to cover, so he works pretty much full time with me now. So he packs orders and will help with the kids, and yeah, I get probably between 3 and maybe 4 or 5 hours in the studio every day. So yeah, I get me art. I'm really lucky.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. I know I'm very fortunate, but yeah, I love it.
So I'm just looking to see what you're up to there.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I'm not
starting
going to really
to-
have anything profound to say. I never have any profound insights when I'm looking at other people's work, and it's only like an inch by an inch on my screen.
Right.
I'm just sort of seeing where you are, and I really like the tendency for some people to work with certain shapes and certain sacred geometrical formulas just naturally.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if that fits this. There's so much like color theory and like geometry that I think you can really geek out about, but I pretty much always just go with my gut on these kind of compositions. Like this one just it's dynamic enough because of the angles. And then honestly, the thing that sort of attracted me to it was knowing that like if I played all these pretty neutral, that I could get this part to really sing, and that would be really cool looking. So that's kind of that was my thought process with this composition.
My thought process for most compositions is just don't blow it, Chris. Just don't blow it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I have kicking around in there.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there's more than that, but I feel like that's definitely the dominant.
I like to distract myself when I work with a lot of background noise. Do you listen to music while you work?
Yeah,
or
I
TV shows
I
or
kind of
anything?
not TV. I definitely could not work with TV, but I do podcasts and music and a lot of audiobooks. I love listening to like a nonfiction book, just because time goes so fast when I'm painting that it almost feels like you can read a book in like 2 days, and it just feels like you're learning with like no effort. So I love listening to audiobooks. Yeah. How about you?
Normally, it would be audio, like music or podcasts. But recently, I've been obsessed with this show from BBC called Time Team. Have you ever heard of Time Team?
No, I haven't.
There are well over 200 episodes over 20-something year time span. And it's essentially a show about archaeologists doing 3-day digs all over Britain and Northern Ireland and Wales and Scotland. Absolutely fascinating. And it's something that you can just listen to because they're very adept at describing what they're digging for, why they're digging for it. They kind of hit all the notes.
Yeah.
And if I want to look up and see what they're doing, I can. But I can go through whole episodes. I'm like maybe 60 episodes in.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's commitment.
I go through whole episodes without even looking. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, that's so much like restraint. I would probably stop what I'm doing and just like veg out so bad. Because that sounds so interesting. I love that. My 5-year-old's most recent interest is fossils. And so I usually get into whatever he's into, and I feel like that would be really fun to watch.
It is very interesting. However, most of the time they're just looking for little bits of pottery, or they're scraping away a stone like Saxon wall, or they're trying to dig up a piece of Roman floor tile. So cool. I'm not sure if a 5-year-old would have their interest held by it, but you may.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. Is it's usually he's a little interested and he'll watch for 5 minutes, and then I get zoned into whatever he's interested in, and I become the expert. So it's at least that's always how it happens for us. I love that. Yeah. And where do you watch it on? Is it just on YouTube or?
Yes, it's just on YouTube. I either have my little iPad going with it, or if no one else is around, I'll sit on my couch. And I have this really, really small travel setup where I can essentially just paint pieces on my lap. So I get everything set up for myself on my couch, and then I can just play on my TV because we have Roku. So I can just play.
Yeah.
I can play the YouTubes all day.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
So, what sort of palettes do you normally use in your pieces?
Yeah, like color palette, or like my literal, how do I keep my acrylics wet?
I'm just interested in your colors. So
okay, yeah.
Use acrylic? And
yes, yeah.
What colors in acrylic?
So yeah, all really high chroma. So the only neutral I have on my palette is white. So like right now I'm using a pretty expanded palette for me. I have Cad yellow light, Cad yellow medium, yellow ochre. I have Cad red, alizarin crimson, quinacridone magenta. Let's see, ultramarine blue, Prussian blue, phthalo blue green shade, and then phthalo green blue shade, and oxide green. That's my whole palette.
Wow.
So, lots of color. Yeah.
Yeah. I am using a slightly more pared down palette. I normally do a like a CMYK plus white. So I mix my own version of my cyan from phthalos, and then I have quinacridone magenta. I use Cad yellow light, and then Payne's gray and white are my base 5, and then I'll add one more color to that, and it's usually Cad yellow deep.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, I've never been comfortable just kind of using red.
Oh, really? Oh, I love red. How do you get your, like, I guess quinacridone magenta would be how you'd get there. Yeah. Hey, or like just adding orange to it or yellow to magenta. Is that how you get?
I'm so sorry, Sari. Could you give me 1 second?
Sure.
And everyone's gonna hear this too. Hey, Enid's not home. She went out. Okay. Have a good one. Some of my daughter's friends looking for her.
Aw, cute.
I'm sorry, what were you asking?
Oh, yeah, so I was just trying to think through your palette of how you would get to red, but I guess you would just add yellow to magenta to kind of warm up
Yes.
And you get kind of red, yeah.
I can get pretty much any red I need to use in my pieces just by the yellow and the magenta. If I go slow and if I'm careful, I can figure it out.
Right.
And I've been working with a limited palette for, I don't know, the better part of 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I just was never able to, I was never able to really work with an expanded one where I have multiple pigments for each color. Like I don't think I can, I don't think I know what to do with 3 or 4 blues on all at once.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've played around with like the Zorn palette, and I've done like a CMYK type palette. Anyways, yeah, and I don't know, I think this is what I've used since college, and I love it. I think in college we had a couple more neutrals, like we had an umber and maybe a burnt sienna, but yeah, I don't know. It's my tried and true at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really use a lot of neutrals.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, if I really need to, I'll use like a burnt sienna,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of functions almost like a red in some ways. Yeah. I don't know. Some people love neutrals. I've taken a bunch of workshops. We have a really good realism atelier in Austin, and I've taken a bunch of figure drawing classes, and almost every time the palette is like chocked full of neutrals, and so I have to like re-get my bearings and figure out how to, I don't know. It's probably good for me to play with neutrals, but it's hard.
I have a tendency, because I have all these little rules for myself, that I spend too long color mixing sometimes. I'm a little color deficient, so
Okay.
I have these rules about what to mix so it doesn't go muddy or get too disgusting too quick.
Right.
And I know for myself, it just tends to get unmanageable if I have both brown and blue on my palette at the same time.
Right.
I also just can't use black either, like a lamp black.
Right.
It's always Payne's gray. So
Yeah.
it's a little bluer and a little weaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't use black either. I remember when I did a series, like I had a Nocturne series I did, and I loved Payne's Gray. I used it all the time for that. But I'm doing a lot of stuff that's a little more like in daylight and direct light, so I don't find myself using it as much. But I have Prussian blue, and just adding alizarin crimson to that, you can get a black in like a half a second. So that's kind of, I just have a couple of shortcuts on my palette at any given time for how I get to those nice dark colors.
I'm adding something that's not in there.
Oh yeah.
Cloud.
Oh yeah, I know. There were clouds in the sky that day. It was trippy that I didn't catch any, but yeah, that's a good. Let's see, what kind of clouds are you adding? Just white ones? Yeah, nice.
Well, it's kind of green.
Yeah.
But I think at that time of the day, I don't know if it would be pink or orange quite yet. I don't think the shadows are long enough for that.
Nope. This was, let's see, 2:00-ish, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. So, yeah, still that midday light.
Now, have you shown actually at a gallery in the Austin area?
Yeah, a little bit. I have some work at this like emerging gallery. I haven't put a ton of stuff in there since COVID, but I just haven't been super incentivized to get more gallery representation because I can just sell online, and it's really nice and convenient, and I get 100% of the cut. And so,
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, but I do, kind of what we were saying earlier, of like understanding the difference between seeing something through a screen and seeing it in person. The true artist within me really wants to have my artwork like in front of people, as much as possible. Just, I think people, I don't know, like they're always shocked in person how saturated it is. I think people think that I like just scroll up the saturation. And so like I love showing in person, but anyways, yeah, so that's one of my goals for 2021 is to get more in-person shows, and maybe finding a more like a gallery in either Houston or Dallas to try to have some work rotating through.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to galleries in Santa Fe, and I went to one. I think I went to one in Dallas one time. I haven't really been to galleries in Texas too often. What was the general scene in your neck of the woods before COVID shut everything down?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. They, a lot of stuff's back open in Texas, and it kind of has been for a while. But I think COVID for me was more just like, it was kind of, I was sort of phasing out of the gallery anyways. And then COVID was kind of just the final push. But yeah, things are pretty much back in Austin anyways, to sort of pre-COVID. I don't think any of the galleries that I'm familiar with went out of business, but I know that like a lot of them were doing drives and stuff to keep open. So I mean, I think it was rough for a little bit, but yeah, they're still hanging.
Yeah, it was. It still is pretty difficult on a lot of my artist friends in New Orleans, because New Orleans relies so much on outdoor markets and festivals throughout the year for their artists to make their income, and they were just all canceled. And I don't think most of them have opened back up yet.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I know like a lot of the like art shows, like traveling art shows and stuff closed, because I was going to participate in a few of them in the spring of last year, and they sort of canceled and haven't reset dates or anything. But yeah, I can imagine a city like New Orleans would really struggle, just because they're so fueled by tourism industry.
Tourism, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be able to include these because they're very distinct, and they kind of add a nice balance between the dark striations in the shadow side of the hill there. I thought the kind of dried out plants along the left in that triangle, that I could maybe paint around them.
Right.
But I think you just have to put them on top.
Yeah.
I don't normally put things on top. I'm kind of really particular about at every phase kind of including everything I'm going to be including.
Right. Yeah, carving out is so much more satisfying. That's what I think I'm going to do, is I'm going to put them in a little bit, and then I'm going to probably bump up the value one more level here, and really try to capture some of the edges that way. Like for instance, right here, I have some of the greenery, which is honest. That's kind of, it has this weird shaggy texture, but I'm going to have to go over the horizon line, I think, one more time to get that to be the way I want it to be at the end. So yeah, it's tough.
So I have another question for you. Where have you traveled to? Are you kind of like a person who traveled a lot when you were younger, before you had your kids, or?
Not as much as I'd like. I mean, we travel around like Texas, and my husband, for his work before he stepped back, traveled a ton, and I would like just come with him to wherever.
Oh,
So I've
nice.
been all over the US. Yeah, yeah, it was really fun. But as a kid, I didn't travel almost at all. I grew up like super, super duper poor. So like the only time we'd go anywhere is we'd all get in the car and drive down to Florida where my grandparents lived. And then, it was like a 23-hour straight drive, and then we'd drive back to Missouri. But no, I traveled like none when I was a kid. And then in college, I was part of the NCAA cross country team. And so traveled around the Midwest that way, and I sort of loved it. And then, ever since I've had kids, but we've traveled a lot for people who have kids. I will say I haven't left the United States, and not because I don't want to, but just because, we were going to travel a lot in 2020. We sort of figured out a way to travel with his work and with the kids, and it just ended up not happening, obviously. But yeah, I would love to, one of my goals is to be someone who travels and paints and kind of navigates that. I think that would be really fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I totally envious of your lifestyle. And it's actually really encouraging to know that you can do it with kids, because that's something my husband and I, we sort of, when we stay up late and talk to each other, we try to work through, because we're homeschooling our 5-year-old now just because of the pandemic. So, it's doable.
Yes. I think it's easier when you can make your living online and you don't physically have to be anywhere at any particular point when you travel. If you have to travel to get to a destination to work, that was when it was hardest for us.
Right.
In the beginning, when I was a star cookware salesman.
Right.
But painting every day and going to a post office and shipping it out, it's easy. I'm trying to get more people to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely possible. We just went to Big Bend, and, if things kind of clear up a little bit more, we're planning on doing like we're going to California this summer. And then we're trying to plan a trip to Europe. So like, I really want to go to the UK. I love reading books about it and stuff. So we're trying to make it happen. I think, it'll happen one way or another, but just about making the choice to actually do it. So
yeah. When things open up, I think I'm going to probably take a trip back to the UK myself with the fam, because my daughters haven't seen it. My wife and I have been to Ireland a few times.
Oh, cool.
And I really like it there. And when I was there in my early 20s, I always thought it would be really cool to just kind of live and work on the side of a cliff overlooking the Atlantic and not really have to do much of anything. And there are several different organizations where you can sort of get grants to stay in these kind of converted 18th century places on the West Coast.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. That's like so my dream. Oh, how cool. Yeah, I mean, it's never been a better time. I always, as much flack as social media gets, I always think like there was some painter like in the past who was, burdened by the gallery structure, who just like sat around dreaming, I wish I could just share my art with the public and travel. Like, and so I always try to frame it as like, what are the advantages of social media? And definitely being able to do that is like for sure one of them, especially if you had a grant, right?
Yes. It's because I don't think you can get to these specific places by just renting. I think you have to apply, and then they tell you whether or not they want you.
Right, totally.
When did you go to art school? Like, were you like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s?
No, let's see. So I graduated high school in 2010, and then I graduated.
Oh, I was under the impression that you were a little bit older, Sari.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm 29.
Okay.
So I had my babies young, but I graduated in 2014 and got married in 2014 and moved down to Texas in 2014. And then no, I've just been painting and having babies and hanging out. But yeah, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, my wife and I got married pretty young. We were 22, 23.
Yeah, look at.
And then we had our first, I think, at 27.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so that's pretty young. It's respectively. I mean, my parents had us when they were like, I think my mom had him when he was like 16. So compared to them, I felt very like seasoned. But the older I get, the more I'm like, oh no, you were pretty young. So it's all about, I guess, what you know.
Yeah. What part of Missouri did you grow up in?
The Ozarks. So I grew up in Springfield, Missouri. And it's not a tiny town. It's I think like the metro's almost 500,000, and the city proper is like 230,000 people. But my husband and I both went to high school there, and then we met on the college cross country team at the university in Springfield. So yeah, grew up in Missouri.
I grew up in Connecticut.
Oh wow, cool. What part?
In Manchester, which is right outside of Hartford.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. My husband worked, did a bunch of track meets up in New England and Connecticut. So, and I went to a wedding one time, I think right by, oh gosh, was it Yale? I don't know. I forget. I'm so out of my element there, but it was on the beach and it was amazing and beautiful up there.
Yale University's in Connecticut.
Okay, yeah, like the southern part, right? Like on the coast. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yep. Very cool. How'd you like growing up in Connecticut?
Didn't like it at all.
Oh wow.
I thought for sure, because I grew up from a very young age watching Magnum PI and Miami Vice, and I thought that all the cool people were in Florida and Hawaii. And I always wanted to be where there were palm trees. And then, and then I got to be where there are palm trees, and I realized that where there's palm trees, there's heat.
Yep. Yeah, and big water bugs and snakes.
Oh, yeah.
That's so funny because I grew up watching Gilmore Girls, which was set in Connecticut. Of course, it was on a film lot in LA, so they never actually dressed for cold weather. But I romanticized Connecticut because of that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So funny how that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So I don't know how much more I can do right now at this scale without beginning to ruin the structure that I have. How are you doing? How far along do you think you are?
Yeah, I'm pretty close. I could definitely finish this up now. I think so. My first pass, I think if I had made it much tinier, I probably could have been done very quickly. But I'm pretty quick, so I try to give myself a little bit more space to play. But yeah, I think like right here just needs to be the value needs to be popped up right here, and I really wanted to get this well established, and then I'm pretty much done at that point.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like one or two more pieces of paint for me. So,
nice.
You can finish this, and you can just send the pic, I guess.
Yeah.
I had a really fun time talking to you. I don't mean to
oh no, you're fine.
But we are a little beyond an hour, I think.
Oh wow, gosh, it goes so fast. See, I'm telling you, I like time blind. I lose track of time so fast out here.
Yes, I try to keep things short with other artists, but they're just incapable. So
yeah, I feel ya.
I leave special allowances. So if people want to find you, if you're one of the 5 people watching this video and you would like to find Sari, how do people find you?
Yeah, the easiest way is just on Instagram at NotSariArt. And also I have a website, it's sari.studio, and I think that's the best way to get to me. I have links, all within that if you want to find other stuff.
Great, and I will put that in the video. It was so nice to finally get to meet you. I've been following you for a long time on social media, and it was very fun to get to chat with you and paint with you today.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much. It was really fun.